Hi guys, I hope you're having a great day. And what we're going to be doing today is doing an overview of the tenacious sales rep. So yeah, I suppose I really love understanding what like the barriers to like excellence are, and I think as sales snipers evolved since it's kind of there right at the start, and like what I've noticed in the evolution is being led like people like Matt Ryder and things like that is you've just really got to be tenacious in your selling. Like you can have all the skills and the tricks and all the rest of it, but if you're not willing to go past like uncomfortableness, because you've got like the internal challenges that you feel awkward talking about, putting people in a binary position and asking them to make asking hard questions of them, then it's going to be very difficult, I would say. Obviously, there's exceptions to the rule, but the more that if you've got an inner handbrake about having awkward conversations with people, it's going to really stunt your ability to become a very effective closer. So I haven't had much in terms of issues really going there with people, but I did kind of feel as though from speaking to a lot of clients that they did have handbrakes, and in proper sales sniper style. Um, the classic term is, excuse my language here, stop being a pussy, But what does that actually look like on a day to day basis? And that is, um, don't be afraid to go there with people because in the right circumstances, you should be going there with people because, because it's in their, because it's in their best interest really to go there with them. Because at the end of the day, as a sales rep, as, instigator of change, if people were empowered to make their own um, empowered decisions, and they really would need somebody to help them, make an order with a program, a system, process, or service or product that was going to enhance their lives. They just think, oh, that's going to enhance my life. Great, let's do it. Yeah, do you know what I mean? So, like as a sales rep, we've got to help people get out of their own way, so to speak, and sometimes that makes having a challenging conversation like a very instrumental part of what we do. All right, so I put this together for the team, but I also think it's worth sharing because it's such an important part of what we do is for the reasons I've explained. So the first thing I want to explain, guys, is like we've got two parts of ourselves. So this is fairly esoteric, should we say? We've got our physical form, just prod yourself on the chest right now. That's you. But we've also got like kind of what I just say is our ego. Okay, and our ego or our perception of self is essentially a great big generalization of or belief we hold about ourselves concerning our skills, personalities, qualities, and such like. It's like when we say to ourselves, to others, or in our own mind, I or I am, that's what we're talking about. Okay, so it's almost like our personality and entity, who we are in a non physical space. Okay, so what we need to realize is this part of us, as I'll divulge into in a minute, is what we consider um, us, not our physical selves, is impervious to physical harm. But we do walk around like it can get hurt. Okay, and this is an important distinction. I just really want you to take some time and mull over. All right. So if you read this document, you're going to see, I've used examples about sticks and stones when we break our bones. Somebody runs at us with a plastic club, then the danger's real, and we should flinch and, feel that physiological response with good merit because we're going to get hurt. Okay. But as a child, if somebody goes to us and says, "Oh, you're a loser," like, where's the physical pain? There's none, but it's an internal sensation, right? So if we go back in the time machine, like thousands of years ago, now we as humans, fluke of evolution or whatever it is, have we all our own beliefs, but we've evolved massively quickly over the last, 1,000 years, say. But our body is still stuck in like the caveman times. Okay, and in times like that, like we were tribal creatures. And we had ranking structures. So in those days, having an ego was super important. And if somebody said to you, "Step in line," or gave you like a verbal command of for you to adhere to, you'd better do it, because if it didn't, it means that you weren't contributing to the tribe. And it was literally like, if you can imagine back in the day, it's probably quite a challenge just to get through the day, you know what I mean? And like being removed from that tribal structure probably would have meant a death sentence, because it's our ability to work as groups and teams that essentially have helped us evolve and stay alive through like a challenging world, essentially. So it makes sense for us to um, know or believe that our ego is damageable, because that's the way that our ego is designed. Because if we didn't adhere, then we'd be dead. All right. But what we need to do now is just appreciate that the landscape has changed. Okay. And like we have so many much more now verbal altercations, interactions where people talk to us in a negative way, but it just doesn't have the same um, meaning. Okay. Within the context of a modern setting where we're having loads of inconsequential challenging conversations every day, yet we have the same response that we think is gonna end us, because we haven't really investigated like where the mechanism comes from, and gone down a couple of different shades of understanding. Okay, so essentially what I want you to do is understand that when a somebody has a challenging conversation with you or vice versa, it will create a physiological response. The old uncharted way of dealing with it is like, oh, I need to run away from that physiological response. But what you need to remember is it's just a sensation within body. Okay, and it's just our prehistoric coding that's saying that it's a bad experience, that is saying that it's a bad sensation. If you look at my other videos, or my other video on removing sales anxiety, it's a very similar thing. We label a sensation, we give it meaning. Now it's up to us to realize it's just a sensation, and as a result, we can undo our coding, and we can undo the coding to say that it's danger. Okay, in certain circumstances where it makes sense, as in a sales setting. Okay, and it'll empower us because we're not having this overwhelming, uninvestigated physiological response with a label that we've put on it, or automatically had labeled or put on it for us, and we can see through it. Okay, and that's what we're able to do. Being through our fluke of evolution, whatever it is, to have sentience and um, see ourselves for what we are to a certain degree. Okay. Um, so I'll just read this. I've highlighted it's quite important. So quite simply this, most reps are afraid to have real awkward conversations with their prospects because they've been taught to avoid the negative physical sensation that these interactions produce. Right? So we're running the same old programming associated with rejection, okay, that our prehistoric relatives were. But for the prehistoric relatives, it was relevant that they should adhere unpaid lip service to this actual sensation, because they would probably be dead if they didn't. But it's wholly inappropriate for a modern day setting where we should be experiencing high levels of unimportant and inconsequential rejection on a daily basis. And as a result, we need to reprogram this physiological response so it gets with the times, so to speak. All right. Okay, so going into the inner chat. Okay, so how do we do that? Like, what's the vehicle for being able to do that? So, if we see it through an NLP lens, not neuro linguistical programming, we are able to converse with our subconscious through mental images, because that subconscious can't talk. Okay, it doesn't have the facility of language, but what it can do is like you can communicate via images. And if you read on, I'll not be covering it in this video, but this exercise is all about communicating and reworking your um, your inner space, inner world, with the use of modifying the images so that so it changes your response to challenging conversations. Okay, and that's called parts integration. Okay, so the plan is then, like I said, with NLP, is to communicate with our ego, to overcome this inbuilt self-defense mechanism, explain that this old program is not needed anymore, and that we like, just with an iOS update, what we're going to do then is create a new way of doing things when ethical to do so, so that when all we see is it now is a physical sensation within body, nothing more, and we just step through it and we just continue our conversation and go there where we need to go for the benefit of our prospect and you know and everybody else who benefits from like a deal being closed. Okay, so this is again I like to do like a physical side of things. So oh, it's not physical side of things. I like to show like a visual side of things. So if you think about it, there's really four, I suppose, a quadrant really of threats to body. So there's self-instigated, irrational fear. Okay, so you ask your boss for a raise. Okay, what are you really afraid of? Is he going to bark? Is he going to get his letter opener and stab it through your chest? No, not really. He's just going to give you a physical, verbal response back. Now, irrational fear, which is self-instigated, is like jumping out of an aeroplane, obviously with a parachute on your back. It's self-instigated, but it's a threat. It's a real threat to your life. Yeah. So, and then inbound, as in like like non-instigated, is you have a challenge in sales call. Now, irrational fear when somebody starts, kind of spitting feathers at you, it's not doing any physical harm, is it? But then inbound is like what uninstigated is like, the building catches on fire. Well, yes, you have every right to feel that fear response then, because at the end of the day, you're going to be turned to a crisp if you don't do anything about it, right? So this, I think, suppose, is the one that we really want to focus on. Is like all these conversations we have per day where people are getting split in feathers, and those people, or most of us who haven't really looked into like the response to it, are really holding themselves back from having those challenging conversations because they haven't done this work with themselves. All right. So the ethical side of things is, essentially like this. There's a couple of different caveats here. Like, don't be selling this book if you're selling snake. Don't be using this tool if you're selling snake oil and stuff like that. Okay, you can read through that yourself. But there's going to be certain times where no matter how tenacious you are, like the deal's not going to close. All right, and like don't be sort of burying yourself up to your neck in cement and getting depressed with it because the deal didn't close, no matter how tenacious you were, and things like the prospect wasn't qualified. People hop onto our calendar, or we go to see people and try to close people, and they're just not a good fit. They've got no desire to change. That whatever you sell in doesn't resonate with them. Get over it. Okay, so tenacity will get you so far, but if certain, I suppose, certain criteria are not in place, then the deal wasn't going to close anyway. Okay, you're selling something you don't believe in. That's going to create like a lot of mental internal turmoil, and essentially, I would recommend that you do sell something that you believe in, or at the very least, come up with a working rationale so you do at least have some congruency with what you sell. Because like what you can be doing then is, if you don't believe in what you sell, you're going to be selling people into something where you don't think they're going to get the outcome that they should be getting, and that's going to cause questions you can ask yourself, and it creates like a shadow side. Okay, you just didn't sell things well, so you can be tenacious as you want, but if you just didn't match a person's problems with your solution and give a compelling reason for them to buy, then don't expect them to buy. People people need to be sold at the same time as well as you being tenacious. Yeah. Okay. The prospect wasn't moving forward for logistical reasons. Yeah. So are they like they just generally have to do move money around, or this stuff that behind the scenes that you haven't managed to glean as a result of the discovery on the call? Okay, you can be as tenacious as you want, but if somebody's not going to share like a valuable piece of information with you, and you can just be knocking against your head against a brick wall, it'll happen. Okay. So, what are the kind of things that would need to be in place before we do this exercise? Number one is that believing what's not conventional. Like I always say to myself, I know enough to know that I don't know enough. And basically, what that means is just do things that you don't really know will or won't work, and just be evidence based. Like do it against a backdrop of I'm a student. Be always be in beginner's mind. And if it has a positive effect, keep doing it. Yeah, because there's so much dogma and sort of societal pressure and conformity that we feel comfortable working within a certain paradigm, and there could be something of massive benefit to us, and it's just behind an opportunity to get out of our own way. Okay, and that's certainly been the case, guys, with my own life experience over the last, say, 18 months. The stuff I do now has had a really significant effect on me, and I would have just call it woo woo. Forget NLP, it's sort of energy releasing work and things like that. It's far more woo woo than this, and it's the more down the rabbit hole I've gone with that stuff, the more significant my life experience has been. Okay, so understand the mind-body connection. This is similar to the work in removing sales anxiety. Okay, and that is that there's an internal representation system. Okay, so we see things through our eyes and hear things through our ears and taste things and all the rest of it. Okay, so there's a corresponding modality in your mind. So sight through your eyes has a corresponding visual modality. What we hear has an auditory modality, blah blah blah. And as a result of that, then we experience things in our mind's eye. Now our subconscious cannot tell the difference between the two, whether it's what we see or what we see in our mind's eye. Okay, and it's going to create the same physiological response. That's an important caveat that we need to understand. Okay, so whether this is what I used in my last example of in the moving sales anxiety. If you go into a sweet shop and you see some, like, sour candy, sweeties, then you're going to get that that salivation mechanism, yeah. And the same thing is, if I ask, I'm probably talking about it now, and you're probably salivating, or if not, you could probably make yourself salivate as a result of thinking of, like, some really dodgy sweeties you had as a kid, which was sour, and then you're just salivating again. So although you necessarily can't see it, what's happening is you're creating, like, a mental image of it very quickly, rapidly in mind, and it's causing the same response. So you need to be mindful of it, yeah. So this little image here talks about it. So in the same vein of that, you see things in mind, it causes a physiological response. Somebody tells you something negative, you retrieve a personal experience of it from a database within mind. You relive it in your mind. Your subconscious can't tell the difference between real and mentally programmed or mental retrieval, and the physical response is the same. Okay, so point 3 is that you need to understand that, and this is super pivotal, guys, is that response has no power over us. It's only when we label it or have an unchecked belief that it has power over us that it garners any power. If you look at sales, the removing sales anxiety, actually if you rename that emotional response as something silly like ticklickle, or something like that, just loses its power. Okay, so it's the same here. It's like it's only a sensation within body, and once we really understand that and know that and see through the facade, then when we're on a sales call and we know what's happening, and we're going into the weeds with somebody on a, challenging them, and they're not liking it, well, we feel that sensation. We say, that's what that is. And we don't run unconscious patterns of, oh, I need to run away from that anymore, because we see through it, we recognize it. And that is just so important. Okay, and then just understand that we can manipulate our internal representation system. So just now, as we're doing this exercise, is to communicate with the subconscious, we'll be doing our re-imprinting cartoon strip technique. Now, what we need to realize is that's a tool to see things within our mind, but our modalities, we can actually change them. Okay, we can make things more powerful in our mind by increasing the size, increasing the color, making static images, movies, and things like that. So it's being able to recognize that what we see in our mind now is not 100% set in stone. We can actually change it. We can change our life experience, and that is an understanding we need to have. All right, and I think that's about it then, guys. So yeah, so next it goes into process and exactly how we do it. So this is a great exercise. Just work with it. Again, if, like I said in other videos, if you're really struggling with it, just drop us a Facebook message, and I'll be able to give you like a wee voice note or something like that. But yeah, I hope it makes sense, and I hope you get some benefit from it.